What's up, everybody? Welcome to Black Hollywood Live's The Trend. I'm your host, Daryl Kristen, and joining me today is Courtney Stewart.
Hello, everybody.
We got a room full of journalists today because not only are Courtney and I are journalists, but our guest today is a journalist. Miss Dominique Carson is in the house. What's up, Dominique, with your little like comfy background?
How you guys doing tonight?
Good, good. I know you're in the East Coast, and we represent the PST. But I'm sure as many years as a journalist, you've had to deal with all, like we were talking about earlier, dealing with interviews throughout this weird time zone. Plus, I'm still trying to catch up on my sleep from the time change from last week.
I know.
Yeah, that daylight saving time throw people off for like the first week.
It always does. Every time.
And it's only an hour. That's what's so funny. You would have thought that you took away 5 hours of my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's just the whole energy of everything.
It is. So I am excited to have you today. You're going to be talking about your new book that you have, first biography on Jon B. Jon B, Are You Still Down? 25 years in the music industry. And we all know about Jon B.
Yes.
They don't know about us. That was my jam. That was my jam. I had many makeout sessions with They Don't Know About Us.
You're giving all the information, Daryl.
It's Time Change Thursday. You're getting all the real answers from Daryl right now.
Oh man.
No, he had a lot of hits. I mean,
yes.
When he came in the game, it was like, all right, who is this new Michael McDonald? What's going on, young Michael McDonald?
Mm-hmm.
And we all loved him. So what was the catalyst for you to decide like you want to do a whole book on Jon B? Like, where did that come from for you?
Jon B is like one of my favorite singers of all time. I'm a 90s baby, so I was born in 1990. So the first time I saw Jon B was on a television show, All That. I had a lot of older cousins. The music library was more advanced. That's the political. And he was on All That, and my older cousin, she was telling me about him and Donnell Jones. And then when I saw this white kid, on this show, he was wearing an all black suit, like all black attire, actually, pretty much. And he was singing Pretty Girl, and his voice caught my attention at such an early age. I didn't even look at his skin. I was just listening to his voice. And then when he came out with Cool Relax, and at that time, Planet Group was on BET, so you saw a lot of the videos. And I was like, I want this CD. Like, who is this white guy? Like, singing with so much growl. And he had like swag too, so it was like I had like a little. Like he was like the first person outside of my race. I was like, okay. I mean, I could rock to him. Like, Jon B is more of my generation, like you said. Michael McDonald, Tina Marie was more like the 80s, but like Jon kind of reinforced R&B, and he stayed in R&B. That's what made him different from a lot of other Caucasian artists. And then from a journalist perspective, I had an opportunity to interview him for a music outlet I was writing for, Singers Room. And I just loved his whole energy, his whole vibe. And the interview was like a 6-minute interview. And it was like a special gift I gave to my god sister because her daughter was conceived from the Cool Relax album. And the fact that she was able to meet him, was a life-changing experience for her too. And I just thought like, Jon doesn't get a lot of recognition in the R&B industry. He's done so much. He's like opened the doors for other Caucasian artists to be taken seriously in R&B. So I was like, why not use my platform to write a book about him? And that's how it all got started.
Jon B really made an impression on you. You saw someone to love with him and Babyface, which I always love because you couldn't tell which one was really singing because their voices were perfectly in harmony. Yeah. But he made an impression on you.
Yeah, he made like I was like 5 years old. Like my cousin, I was 5, my cousin was 8, and she already knew who these artists are. She was like, "Listen to it," and I'm like, "Is this really a white guy singing this?" His voice was so different. It was so rich, and like you said, like everybody I know thought those earlier records were Babyface records, and I'm like, no, those are Jon B records. But it's just like he has a voice that he can impersonate anybody. He can do like a Sade, he can do like an Ozzy Brothers sound, because that shows you his diverse range as an artist, and not every artist can do that. So that struck me at such an early age. And plus, I'm a music head. Like, I'm a 90s baby. I love R&B. And I'm just so grateful that I was born in this golden age of music. Like, music that was alive, make you feel alive, make you want to dance and all of that. And then Jon was just was added to the list for me.
Well, like many 90s R&B stars, Jon included, we heard their music for many years, and then all of a sudden, I guess there was a shift in what R&B sounded like. And then a lot of those artists you didn't hear from anymore. Like you mentioned Donnell Jones. Donnell had many hits. And then it was like that shift in R&B where all of a sudden it was a new wave of artists. So
Exactly.
in writing this book, what did you find out about Jon that you were really surprised about it as far as his voyage into the R&B lane?
I didn't know that he already started studying R&B from when he was in high school. He already started doing that when he was a high school student back in Pasadena. He was studying like Guy, Levert, and of course his idol Babyface. He was introduced to his friends were introduced him to a lot of R&B artists. So this is not somebody that's tried to emulate the style. And then once again, Jon comes from a musical family. They're like middle class musicians. So he was already trained to perform, and a lot of stuff he learned by ear. And then like R&B just kind of like put the cherry on the sundae. So that was one of the things that I found interesting. And then another thing was he was the last person to work physically with Tupac Shakur. Over the years, everybody worked with his voice. Jon was in the studio with Tupac Shakur, and Tupac was already a fan of Jon B. He had the Bonafide CD in the driver's seat. So Tupac was jamming to some R&B, and now they had the opportunity to work together, and unfortunately 2 weeks he died, and he had to receive, Afidi Shakur, he got his blessing from her to release Are You Still Down, because it was a tough time. Like, Tupac is passing. Should I release this record out? Like, I'm not trying to get fame over this guy's death. And it took Tupac's mother to say, okay, release the record, because that was the only record that Pac paid him, in front of her. It was like a record he was very proud of, because all the other music he was releasing, it was like a lot of explicit content. But this particular record he played for her, and that's when he got his blessing from her. So that was pretty dope, finding that out. And it's just unfortunate, like a lot of talented artists, when they don't have the right marketing and the promotion, and it's like you got to fight with these record labels because they want duplications of previous albums, and not understanding that artists grow. They're not the same person when they were 20 and 21. Like, now they're 25 or entering their 30s. A lot has happened in their life, and a lot of these record labels and record executives, they want them to do a duplication of the previous album because that was the signature album. So that was another challenge for him as well.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on, after speaking to Jon B and like sort of learning the genesis of his career, what are your thoughts on sort of the genesis of R&B period on the music scene? Because Jon B, obviously, like the 90s were a heyday. I always say it's like the 60s were to rock and roll, the 90s was for R&B and hip hop. Like, it was just a magnificent time. But somehow, like you kind of mentioned before, it sort of, things kind of just fell off in the 2000s and up until now. I mean, arguably R&B is, there's been an argument, is R&B dead? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that after having spoken to him and kind of been around the business and learning? Like, where do you think that is, and why do you think that happened?
For me, I would say maybe up to the end of the 2000s, you kind of saw like a dive in R&B, because there's no originality. Nobody's not taking the time to write lyrics, heartfelt lyrics. Nobody's not taking the time to compose the music. That's what's turning people stray, from R&B. And it's like, you got to go underground to find real R&B music. And to say, there's some good artists that's out. Like, I love her. I had an opportunity to interview her when she was still Gabby Wilson. So just to see her growth from Gabby Wilson to now a Grammy Award-winning R&B artist, like, that's pretty dope. But overall, that's why a lot of the more R&B veterans are coming out with these singles. Like, look at Brandy. She just came out with B7, and that was like one of the biggest albums of last year, because they try to make a stand like, okay, this is changing, but there's still room for R&B. I just think that if people go back to the originality, you know, you want to go back to that place. I remember when I interviewed Monica, she was saying like a lot of the songs you could say, yo, I remember doing this, or I remember I was with this girl, I was with this guy back in those days. And now people are not having those feelings when they listen to those R&B songs. That's why people going back to their earlier catalogs to get to the real R&B, or they going underground, unfortunately.
Yeah, the 90s was a great period. I mean, Music Soul Child, you know, just you know, Erykah Badu, you know, like there was just so many that we could just come to mind with, you know, along with Jon. And it's interesting because I feel like everything else, fashion, music, it all comes back full circle, right? So we have, you know, it goes in a certain direction, but then I feel like right now we're in a place where R&B is slowly sort of coming back to where it used to be. Is that Bruno Mars record with Anderson?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's everything to me. Like that record is slamming. So it's like,
and then you got Charlie Wilson.
you got
That's
Charlie
the
Wilson.
old game.
Yeah.
Still coming with #1 records, like 10 #1 records at least as a solo artist. So it's like a mixture you having. Like Charlie Wilson kicked the door down. He's like, I may be of age, but I could blend with the times and stop and still not lose myself. And that's what a lot of artists too, they want to blend in with the times. And unfortunately, you start losing yourself, because in one way you don't want to be a dinosaur, but yet you don't want to compromise your sound. And that's where the disarray kind of just starts.
Yeah, and with writing the book, like what did you want people to really know? Like what do you want them to A, know about R&B, and B, also know about Jon B, no pun intended?
I mean, I really want people to know, like, know the man that sings behind those songs that you love so much. Know the man that sing they don't know. Know the man that sing don't talk. You know the man that made it easier for all these other Caucasian artists to come out, like Robin Thicke and Justin Timberlake and Sam Smith. All these other Caucasian artists are able to have breakthrough success because Jon was determined to not cross over, because that's what I put in the book. A lot of these record executives, because of the success of Pretty Girl, they really wanted him to cross over and be that pop artist. And that's not what he wanted to do. That's a different lane in itself. Over the years of being a music journalist, or just a journalist in general, I realized a lot of Caucasian artists, they start off as R&B and then they have to transition to pop.
Pink.
Jon didn't do that.
Pink was a great example. Pink was a R&B artist when she first started. Now she's
she was an R&B artist that was miserable.
Yeah.
Because that's not what she wanted to do. Jon was opposite. He was like, I really want to be in this R&B industry. Like, I'm not going to change my sound for nobody. And it took that Cool Relax album to take him seriously. That's why that song, They Don't Know, is his signature song. Like, they don't know. Like, they don't know what I have. They don't know all I got. Like, I'm not just this baby face protege. Like, there's so much more to me. And then when that record came out, everybody was rocking with him. And then when Jon B and Tupac did their collaboration, you had people on the hip hop scene collaborating with him now. Because if you could collaborate with Tupac Shakur as a rising R&B artist, yo, okay, I have to take you seriously. I have to take you seriously. And this was a message for me, for R&B artists, like, don't compromise your sound. You know, Jon may not be the mega artist that he sees today, but he has a legacy. Like, even Chris Brown and Drake, they're sampling the music. People are sampling his music. International artists are sampling the music, and he's still touring, and he has a catalog where him and his family could eat. So he made an impact on such an age, you know, for not to look at the skin, like, look at the talent. And it just took me back. Like, that's a growth in itself, because even when Tina Marie came out, her first album, they didn't even show her face. Like, the first album with Jon, they made him like an El DeBarge. So it kind of like took him to the second or third album to say, like, okay, this is really a white dude.
I mean, listen, let's be real. When we first saw that video, we was like, he's light skinned.
He's light skinned.
He's light skinned. He's from New Orleans. He's from the Louisiana, New Orleans.
He's Creole. He's Creole, guys.
Creole. He good. He good.
But even in thinking about that though, like sort of the racial component of where we are today, culturally speaking, do you think there's actually room? Because there's a lot of, conversation around appropriation of Black art and Black music and Black visual everything, basically. And do you think there's really room for a white artist that's really about the R&B that could bust through in a time like now, the way that Jon B did?
I think so. As long as they, as long as they're being true, and they're not trying to emulate someone else's sound, because the viewers and they're gonna pay attention because real recognizes real. They're gonna know if you're being a fraud, and that's not one thing you don't want to do when you're first coming out as an artist. You want to say like, this is me. Like, I'm even willing to learn, but I'm not gonna lose my originality. Like that was Jon B. He was willing to learn, but still kept his originality in the process. That's why being under Babyface guidance, he learned so much, because at first he just wanted to be a songwriter. He didn't even want to be a singer because of that skin barrier. And it was up to Babyface to say, no, you meant to be an artist, man. Like people got to hear that voice. So like I said, he took the initiative to learn, and being humble and being patient, it led to this. 25 years in the industry. Like this year is the 20th anniversary of Pleasures You Like. And that was the album that came out with Don't Talk. It's still the dance tune. When people hear that record, people dance to that song. Like they're still gonna dance to it. So.
And then he's touring now, you mentioned. So there's lots of new music still that he's
yeah, he's doing virtual right now because of the state of the world right now with the pandemic. But prior to the pandemic, he was going on the road, releasing those classics and still performing those classics that people like. So I know the last thing I researched, he's in the process of doing his next studio album. And it's harder for artists when they're independent, because when you're independent, everything is on you. Like you don't have a label to back you up. So, and then you got to get the funds to release those records and to go on those roads and to promote. So, but in a sense, I hear all these other artists that's mainstream, even Charlie Wilson getting out of the deal, Fantasia, Joe. A lot of these artists are going independent because they have more creative control and they want a bigger revenue than when you were on the label.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you meant he was doing like virtual tours. I was like, because that's where we're at now.
Yeah, he's doing that too. Like you can see a lot on his Instagram. Like he shows you stuff he's doing on the keyboard, performing those hits. And he just released his 2 singles last year, the one with Donnell Jones, Understand, and Priceless. And he's performing virtually on Instagram.
Well, you obviously, spoken to lots of musicians in the industry and how their, careers have come about. What have you taken yourself for your own creative artistry? Because journalism and writing in general, like that's still your creative soul as well. Like what have you taken from those interviews and those artists that you will take with you in your career going forward?
That you have to stay patient. You have to stay humble, knowing that writing is a craft. It's a craft that has to be worked on daily. When you think you're great, my family used to tell me, when you think you're great, somebody extraordinary. So you can never have to, never be too proud to say like, I'm willing to learn. And the thing about the journalism industry is always changing, it's always evolving. Everything is digital now. But the one thing you can never take away from journalism is you have to write. Like everywhere you go, any type of medium of journalism, people are you're still gonna need a writer, and I just try to make sure, and I put in my article, I try to follow the ABC acronym: accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Those some things will never go out of style. Originality, accuracy would never go out of style as a journalist. So it's a craft for me. I've been doing this ever since I was a teenager. My first celebrity interview was Drake when I was in high school. So this is like almost a 20-year journey for me. And I'm still loving it the same way when I got my first published article as a teenager. So I'm just very blessed. I'm very fortunate that a lot of the outlets, they saw my passion, they saw my drive, and I was able to interview, over 100 notable people in entertainment. That's a blessing in itself. So I'm very honored.
Well, keep up that work.
Thank
So
you.
as a journalist, I do have one question before we leave and sign off and have you promote the book again. You know, as journalists and hosts, we watch a lot of TV, right? And there's lots of talking head shows, and you know, you have the views and all of that, and we have the talk. And recently, you know, the headlines have been all about Sharon Osbourne and her recent reaction on the show. What have you thought about that and how it's been handled as far as being a journalist and looking at it through our scope of view?
Ooh, that's a very controversial subject. I just think, you know, as an adult, you really have to be careful what you say, because you may take it a certain way, but the person you're directing it to, you don't know how they're taking it once you leave that stage. And I think Black people, we get so emotional about the, you know, meticulous things because we've been through a lot as a culture, like even from slavery, even from segregation, even being taken seriously in the workforce. So that's why a lot of African Americans, they get passionate when they feel like they're being slighted in the entertainment industry. And I commend Cheryl Underwood so much for
Absolutely.
keeping her composure.
God bless her for it.
Would be conceived as an angry Black woman. No ifs, ands, buts. People will forget her industry, her contribution to the craft. They would see that for that second. So the fact that she was able to keep her composure is dope. Like, and with Sharon Osbourne, it's like I said, you got to be careful what you say. Like, you can't just say anything anymore. Like, it's not like how it used to be. Like, you got to tread water lightly. It's like what your parents used to say to you. You have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. You know, violence is actually louder in this circumstance. And certain things, especially if you're on the talk, and that show's been around for a minute now, even when Eve was on there, I'm pretty sure you be up to date of what's going on. So the fact that you say you had to educate you, like, you almost 70. Why people gotta educate you? That's something you supposed to know. Like, that's the facts. Like, so it's like you reacted instead of responding. And we all get caught up in that. But when you're on live television, people are watching you. Like, it's a whole different stage now. Social media, everything. We like this. We start seeing stuff, posting stuff right away. So it's just, you know, be careful what you say. And like I said, Cheryl Underwood keeping her composure, because women alone, we are very emotional creatures. And it's like when we feel like we being slighted or our integrity is being compromised, we ready to go but I'm just glad she didn't do that.
Much kudos to her, because I am not sure that I know for sure I wouldn't have been able to handle it the same way. Put it like that.
No, not that strong. But I do want to go back to one point just a little bit, in terms of the idea that, you know, you do need to watch what you say. And there's always this conversation around, are we too sensitive now? And are we not able to really say what we want to say because of sensitivities and all of that? Have you felt any stifling with the sort of nature of things right now in terms of sensitivity and having to be so cautious? Or have you found that it's opened your eyes in a different way when you're writing? Or how has that affected how you are able to produce what you're doing?
On a personal level, as I'm getting older, you really have to tread water lightly in what you say, because especially with myself, I'm a very assertive person. I'm very outspoken, so people could take that a long way. Because outside of writing, I'm a massage therapist, so you have to work with people. It's a service industry, and that goes with clients, that goes with, you know, your employees, and people may not vibe with that personality. So it's like your character traits have to simmer down, not compromising who you are, but to simmer down, especially if you have that dominant force. And I do have that dominant force. Now, from a journalist perspective, it's a tough situation. Like that's why a lot of people are feeling slighted in the industry, because we are supposed to have this freedom of speech, and now you can't really have it, because when you say something, it's being misconstrued. It's in a disarray. So it's a very very touchy subject. I just think that as long as you know what you're saying and be prepared for the aftermath,
Yeah.
and you're prepared for it, then be my guest. But be prepared. It's gonna be a pro to it, it's gonna be a con. And if it's a con, you gotta fight against the con. If it's a pro that people are not, is that people are gonna see as a con, you gotta have to fight it either way. So you gotta be prepared for war. With your
War. Yeah, that's true.
Ain't that the truth?
True.
Mhm.
Yeah, on that note, as we prepare for war, we're actually going to be preparing for war and to read this great R&B book as well.
Thanks.
Find out all these facts about Jon B. You're going to make me put on my, my playlist right now and find out that Jon B, they don't know about us, play in the background real quick.
Mhm.
Where can fans find you if they want to know more about the book and just what you're doing as a journalist? Maybe book you as a massage therapist as well on the side, get you some extra checks,
It sounds good. The book is available now on Amazon and Goodreads. It's called Jon B. Are You Still Down? I've been looking at my reviews. It's been pretty good reviews. My book has been considered for a lot of self-publishing awards, and recently I found out it's considered for the American Society of Journalists and Authors. So I was like, yes.
Yes.
I love
I'm
hearing that.
very blessed. I'm very thankful. And I'm on Instagram, Dom Carson 90, and I'm on Twitter, Dom Carson. And my LinkedIn is my first and last name. So people can find out, what I've been doing and articles and all that good stuff.
Well, everybody go check out Dominique and get this book because I know there's some good stuff in there. I want to read it and know all about
And
it.
it's an easy read. And that's why this is my first book. So I really wanted it to be an easy read. And I was hesitant about publishing it because it was under 100 pages. And I remember my dear friend and editor, Emily Timmerman, she's like, I'd rather you publish a book with that amount with meaningful content than publish a book 100 plus pages and people are like, what is this?
It's true.
True.
Plus, people's attention span is so different now. They want the quick information,
Yes.
So.
100%.
Well, Courtney, where can fans find you?
I'm all over social media still at Stuart Starlet, and make sure you guys follow us at @WeAre_the_trend because we had to change up the Instagram account and we still building. So holla back.
Yes.
Please follow us. And you can find me, please, right, exactly. And you can find me at Daryl Kristen on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and also doing Entertainment Tonight Live Canada as well. But thank you for coming in, Dominique.
Thank you guys for having me.
We can support your book. If you do a virtual show with Jon B, let a brother and sister know because we're gonna be there.
Yeah, we trying to work on that now. Jon is a busy guy. We were trying to work on that for the last few weeks. So
yeah, COVID's opening up, so we want to see like a little cafe date moment, singing with some little reading excerpts. Like, let's have a
that would be dope. That would really be dope.
Amazing.
Well, thanks for coming on. We'll have to have you back when you are writing your next book.
Yes, I'm working on the research process right now. It's gonna be called The Invisible Betty Boop. So I got the title because Betty Boop was inspired by African American jazz artist. So I've been working on that, and I'm a Betty Boop fan since forever. So that's gonna be the next book I'm gonna be working on. It's called The Invisible Betty Boop.
I'm already seeing that as a movie. So listen,
looking forward to it.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.